You just got your very own Bilt MasterCard, one of the most hyped up credit cards of my lifetime, and rightfully so. It's revolutionizing the credit card game by helping you earn points on the biggest spending category that you already have, which is rent. No other credit cards, except for one that we'll get to later in this video, help you earn points on rent. And that's why you and so many of your friends have gotten the Bilt MasterCard. But they haven't just revolutionized what you can earn points on, they've also revolutionized the entire credit card process and what it means to actually have a credit card. There are so many different perks and bonuses and quirks to the Bilt Rewards program that in order to make the most of your new Bilt credit card and to make it worthwhile, you need to have a good understanding of what actually goes into getting the most out of your Bilt MasterCard. And so by the end of this video, you're going to have a full understanding of how to get maximum value from your Bilt MasterCard without that much effort. First, we're going to talk about how to get the sign-up bonus for this card, or lack thereof. Then we're going to talk about the most important thing about this credit card, which you must remember or it will be useless to you. And when people first hear about this card, they ask, what's the catch for getting points back on rent? This is the catch. Then we're going to talk about some basic normal credit card things that the Bilt MasterCard has, followed by some special Bilt features that this card has. And then we'll get into some of the advanced credit card features that this card just so happens to also have. So let's start out with the sign-up bonus. The sign-up bonus for this card is non-existent. And you've already gotten the card, so there's no need to talk about whether or not it's worth it for you to get the card or not. Most people think that this card is still worth it for them, even though there's no sign-up bonus. But once you get this card, some people have reported that they're getting sign-up bonus offers over email of around 5,000 to 10,000 points if you spend $500 or $1,000 within some set amount of time. So when you get this card, make sure to check your email and make sure that you haven't been targeted for some of these sign-up bonuses. Not everyone has been, but if you can get a sign-up bonus for this card that you already have when you weren't expecting it in the first place, that's an awesome bonus that you should definitely take advantage of. But now, the most important thing about this card, the thing that if you don't do this, this card will be useless to you, is the fact that in order to earn any points at all, not just points on rent, but any points at all, you have to use this card at least 5 times a month. Now that doesn't have to be 5 times plus rent. Rent is included in one of those transactions, but it has to be rent plus 4 other transactions. You could do rent plus a Lyft ride plus 3 tickets on the subway. You could do your phone bill, rent, and 3 trips to restaurants. But you have to use this card at least 5 times in a month for you to get any points whatsoever, or they won't even give you any points for that month on rent. So you're missing out on potentially thousands of points a month if you don't use this card for at least 5 purchases a month. You might think that's annoying. Why do they do that? Well, the reason why they do this is the same reason why other cards haven't offered points back on rent before. It's because credit cards need to make money, and they're not making money on the rent payment. And so in order to make sure that this card is profitable for them, they need to make sure that you're using this card for things that aren't just rent, because those are the transactions they actually make money on. This isn't something that Bilt is doing to try to scam you out of getting your points. They want you to get your points, which is why they have this awesome feature where they track how many purchases you have so far in a month. And if you open up your app, you can find as soon as you make 1 purchase in a month, a little tracker bar will show up there that shows 1 of 5. As you have more and more transactions in the month, that'll fill up until you hit 5. And once you hit 5, it'll go away. It gives you a deadline, meaning it tells you by what date you have to have the 5 transactions. So I recommend putting some sort of recurring transaction on the card just so you get that tracker to show up. And then all it takes is 4 more transactions, and that actually ends up being pretty easy to do because of the extra earning categories that we'll get onto later in this video. On top of the tracking feature, Another thing that really shows Bilt wants you to earn these points and isn't trying to scam you out of points is the fact that, forget the tracker, they also send you emails about it. So this is much easier to actually do than you'd think at first. Now, just to knock out the basic normal credit card things about this card that you should be aware of, the Bilt card gives you 3x back on dining, so it's a great restaurant card, and it gives you 2x back on travel. But it's worth noting that that 2x back on travel is only in the Bilt travel portal and if you book directly with airlines or hotels, for example. So just a good idea in general with credit cards is not to do so many bookings with Expedia or places like that, because you usually aren't eligible for your elevated hotel and airline cashback or points back offers on credit cards if you don't book directly with an airline or through the airline's travel portal. And that's true with Bilt as well. You also get 1x on everything else. I'm not talking about rent here. We'll get to that in a second. And those are your basic cashback categories that you would see on any normal card. So now onto the special Bilt features, which is what we all want to hear about. Obviously, everyone knows about this card's golden feature, which is 1x back on rent up to $100,000 a year. So if you have a crazy high rent payment, you might hit that, but otherwise should easily cover your annual rent payment. And if you stick around, I'll tell you a way where you can actually earn up to 3 times back on your rent payment. And this is something that's brand new to Bilt that you haven't heard of on any other Bilt YouTube videos and which you have got to stick around for. Just a quick public service announcement on how to actually earn that 1x back on points. Be very careful. Do not go into a random rent portal for your landlord, put in your Bilt credit card info, and expect to get your 1x back on points. That won't work, and that's a big mistake. Instead, Bilt gives you a checking account and routing number. So what you do basically is you go to your portal to pay your rent, and instead of adding a credit card as a payment method, you add a checking account as a payment method, and you insert your Bilt checking and routing account number that they give you through the card. And that will earn you the 1x back. And the reason Bilt does this is so they can avoid paying the crazy high credit card fees on your rent transactions so that they can actually afford to pay you this 1x back on rent. Another cool feature they have related to this 1x back on rent is something called Bilt Protect, where if you turn that option on, it basically treats your rent payment kind of like a debit card, so it doesn't count against your credit limit, which means if your credit limit is only a couple $1,000s, say your credit limit is $2,000 and you've spent $1,800 of that and your rent payment is another $1,000, right? That $1,000 will not count against your credit limit when it comes to reporting to the credit bureaus or, God forbid, just declining your rent payment when that needs to be on time. So that's another great feature that Bilt has to really keep you organized and make sure everything goes seamlessly through and you get your 1x back on rent with rent paid on time like you should. There is one situation where you can actually input your credit card info in your landlord's payment portal and you'll still get your 1x back on rent and you won't have to go put in the checking account information that Bilt gave you. And that's if your landlord is part of what they call the Bilt Alliance. The Bilt Alliance is this group of landlords that Bilt has partnered with where they give you slightly special perks. So one of those perks is they have a direct integration with your payment portal. Eventually, I hope they're gonna roll that out to everyone. They haven't done that yet, but that's a situation where if your building has one of those stickers that says part of the Bilt Alliance, I'll put one up on the screen, then you're able to get these special perks of inputting your credit card directly instead of the checking account. Another perk of being in one of these Bilt Alliance buildings is that if you put in your credit card info instead of your checking account info, that rent payment, it's reported to the credit bureaus so that you can actually get credit for the payment that you're already making every month, which seems like a win-win to everyone. Another great feature Bilt has built into this, which makes it easier for you to hit your minimum of 5 transactions a month, is they've partnered with Lyft to give you crazy cashback earnings on Lyft purchases. Unfortunately, they had a benefit that just ended on March 21st of this year, where if you paid for 3 Lyft rides with your Bilt card, you would get a $5 Lyft credit, and they would do that every month. But the partnership that Bilt has with Lyft right now is very impressive, and I haven't seen anything like this before. It helps you get up to 7x back on Lyft rides. Bilt will say it's only 5x back. I'll explain why they only say 5x back and why I say 7x back and why we're both right. And this has to do with one of the coolest features that I've ever seen on a credit card, which is that if you just link your Bilt credit card to your Lyft account, you automatically get 2x back on every Lyft ride. And here's the kicker, without even using your Bilt card. So you could be using a different credit card and get your 2x back on Bilt points when you ride on Lyft, when you made the purchase with another card. So Bilt is giving you 2x back on every transaction you have on Lyft when you're not even using the card because it's just linked to your account, which means you can pair that with a card if you happen to have this. You can pair that with the Chase Sapphire Preferred card, which gives you 5x back on Lyft. And if you put your Lyft purchase on the Chase Sapphire Preferred card and you link your Bilt card to your Lyft account, you're getting 5x back on the Chase Sapphire Preferred and 2x back on Bilt points. So combined, you're getting 7x back on Lyft rides. And each of those point currencies, we'll get to the valuation for Bilt points later on, but if it's worth about 2 cents per point, which it can be, and Chase Ultimate Rewards points, which you would get from using a Sapphire Preferred card there, are also worth about 2 cents per point. Well, now you're looking at a situation where you're basically getting 14% off every single Lyft ride, which is insane to me to see. The reason Bilt says you can only get up to 5x back on Lyft rides is because if you don't have the Chase Sapphire Preferred, what I'd recommend you do is that you just pay for your Lyft rides with your Bilt card, because then you get 2x back from having your account linked, and Bilt also gives you 3x back when you spend your card at Lyft. So you get the 3x back for spending on Lyft, plus the 2x back for linking your account with Lyft, and together you're getting 5x back in Bilt points for your Lyft transactions. And just a note on Lyft in general, Lyft almost always has better pricing than Uber, and the wait and save feature on Lyft that gets you the discounted pricing almost always comes just about right away. So I would highly recommend you take a look at Lyft, especially if you can get 5 or 7x back on every purchase, because at that point it's just a no-brainer over Uber if the prices are already much better because you have that wait and save feature. Another store-specific benefit that the Bilt card has is with SoulCycle. You get 10x back on SoulCycle. So if that's something you're into, that's there. But the big thing that everyone's probably wondering about is we're telling you how to get all of these different Bilt points, but what are they actually worth? And what can you use them for? Because you can't actually use them for something that I think a lot of people are used to using points for. And we'll just start off with that. You can't use your Bilt points for cash. So some point systems just have a less valuable redemption for cash. So maybe you can redeem your points for a half a cent each. And some have that as high as 1 cent each. But for Bilt, you just can't redeem your Bilt points for cash. But don't get discouraged, because there are a few insanely cool redemption options for your Bilt points that you don't get with any other credit card. Number one, and this is a more common redemption option that lots of credit cards have, which is the Bilt Travel Portal. In the Bilt Travel Portal, you're guaranteed to get a value of at least 1.25 cents per point. And so I think that's a great baseline that we should measure these points against. Meaning if you're getting 1.25 cents per point, that's fantastic. So if you don't travel whatsoever, then perhaps the 1.25 cents per point valuation for you might be a little bit rich. But I definitely think that that's a good baseline everyone should shoot for with Bilt points because of the countless ways that you actually are able to redeem them. So in the Bilt Travel Portal, you get 1.25 cents per point on every time you book travel with your Bilt points. So that's a decent redemption. Redemption number 2 is 4 different fitness programs that Bilt has. I don't recommend you actually using any of these. They're all worth approximately 1 cent per point, so not totally worth it. And then you have some artwork and things like that you can buy as part of the Bilt collection, and you can buy those with points. Those don't usually have such great redemption values also, and I think that's more a gimmick than an actual feature that people will find useful. And the one area that I really think you should not use your Bilt points for is rent. You actually can pay for your rent with your Bilt points, but there you're only getting around a half a cent per point. And so you're really not taking advantage of all the hoops that you went through to get this really unique and incredible card. Outside of the travel portal though, that gives you a base of 1.25 cents per point, is actually an even crazier redemption that gives you a consistent 1.5 cents per point, which is really high. That's like Chase Sapphire Reserve type guaranteed cent per point amount, which is Chase's highest end personal credit card. And so this is really, really impressive, which is that if you plan on buying a house anytime soon, you can actually use your Bilt points towards your down payment and you'll get 1.5 cents per point, which is unbelievable. I think that might be just as crazy as them offering points back for rent. The fact that you can actually get 1.5 cents per point paying your mortgage, which is money that you're not even spending, that goes into you're spending it from your bank account, but it goes into your net worth, and you're earning points on that. So that's the only time I've ever seen a company offer you points on what's essentially an investment you're making instead of a purchase, which is so underrated, and I don't know why more people aren't talking about that. But if you plan on buying a house soon, redeeming your Bilt points for your down payment is a crazy redemption in my opinion. They also allow you to redeem with Amazon and shop with Amazon for around 0.7 cents per point. I think again, if you can guarantee yourself the 1.25 or 1.5 cents per point, you're just shooting yourself in the foot there and reducing the value you should be getting. But the most valuable way to redeem your points is actually not through the travel portal, and it's actually not by paying your down payment with points. It's actually through their travel partners. And this is common with most major credit card brands you'll see, which is you can get the highest value for your points, meaning the highest cent per point value, if you transfer your points to transfer partners that have a redemption that fits your schedule. And sometimes these redemptions are terrible, but sometimes they can be incredible. So you can get as high as 4, 5, 6, 10, 20 cents per point, depending on the actual redemption. So Bilt specifically has really great transfer partners, which means their transfer partners have high cents per point. And so I can transfer one Bilt point to one Hyatt point, and Hyatt points are the most valuable hotel point. So for example, on our honeymoon, my wife and I got 4 cents per point redeeming our Chase points with Hyatt, and you could do the exact same redemption with your Bilt points. You could get 4 cents per point. But regarding the transfer partners, Bilt has actually lost a huge transfer partner, and this news broke a week or two before this video was posted, and that is that they are losing American Airlines as a transfer partner. And the reason that that is so terrible is because American Airlines is the one airline that doesn't have any relationships with any other credit cards except their own co-branded American Airlines credit cards with Citi. And so the American Airline credit cards are the only way you can earn A-Advantage points with credit cards, and A-Advantage points are the most valuable airline point in America. I think they're valued at around 1.7 cents per point. And so if you have the only credit card in the world that earns those points, American actually just did a promotion where for as low as 5,000 American points, you can actually book tickets all over the country. And so my wife and I are about to visit her family in LA, and so we just booked for 5,000 points each, a ticket from New York to Los Angeles, which is an unbelievable redemption value for an economy flight. We got 3 cents per point, and unfortunately, Bilt is taking away that redemption offer, and their partnership with American Airlines is coming to a close. That being said, they're replacing American Airlines, which is part of the One World Alliance, with another One World Alliance member, and that's Alaska. And remember, I've been saying a couple times in this video that there's one way where you can potentially get 3x back on rent payments instead of 1x. Well, this is it. If you're someone who flies Alaska, which means lots of you who are on the West Coast, probably not a lot of you who are on the East Coast just because of their route map. But if you fly Alaska and Alaska points are valuable for you, then you can actually get 3x back on rent, up to $50,000 in rent payments each year in Alaska points because of this new partnership with Bilt. If you're someone who loves American flights, American and Alaska are in the same One World Alliance, and so you can book American flights through Alaska. So you can still book American flights. Your redemption value just isn't going to be as good. But tell me what you guys think. Lots of people are really upset that they're taking away American, and I understand that, but at the same time, the fact that you can now earn 3x back on rent is like Bilt is beating themselves at their own game. It's incredible, it's fascinating to see, and I can't wait to see what they're able to offer next. Now, the last part of this redemption option is a crazy thing that only Bilt has, and this is part of the reason I'm making this video, because there are so many different quirks and features to this card that you really have to have a good understanding of what they all are to make the most of it. So most transfer partners have what's called a one-to-one transfer partner relationship, where one Bilt point becomes one Hyatt point, or something like that. One Bilt point becomes one Marriott point. You get the point. But what Bilt decided to do is beat themselves at their own game again. They have these great transfer partners, and Bilt decided, well, what if once a month we decide to make everything better? So they have this crazy thing called rent day, where on the first of every month, not only are your spending multipliers doubled, so your usual 3x back on dining becomes 6x back on dining, which is for a free annual fee card, which is much higher than the 4x back on dining that the $240 annual fee Amex Gold card gets. Wow, this card is good. On the first of every month, if you make that your date night, you get 6x back on restaurants. You get 4x back on travel, which again, much better than the Chase Sapphire Reserve, which is a huge annual fee. Almost on par with the Amex Platinum, which is a huge annual fee. So you get double in all your spend categories on the first of every month. But on top of that, when it comes to the transfer partners, they have these special bonuses that they call hero benefits on the first of every month, where you can get outsized value with a specific partner of theirs. So I'll give you a few examples. Just last month in February of 2024, if you wanted to transfer your Bilt points to Aeroplan, for example, you could have gotten an 150% transfer bonus, which means instead of your one Bilt point being worth one Aeroplan point, now your one Bilt point is worth 2.5 Aeroplan points, which is mind-boggling. And it's not just Aeroplan they did this for. In the last year, they've done it for Hawaiian Airlines, they've done it for KLM, they've done it for Virgin, they've done it for Emirates, they've done it for Flying Blue, they've done it for IHG, and you just get the point that if you have a redemption that you're saving up for, you'll be able to get an incredible value by waiting for these rent day promotions, which are much better. I know other issuers also have transfer bonuses, but those are in the range of like 15 to 30%. Bilt's transfer bonuses are in the range of like 50 to 150%. It's a totally different ballgame. Bilt is playing in the big leagues, everyone else is in single A. But on rent day, they don't only have those bonuses, they've also had other bonuses. Once on rent day, which is again, their promotion on the first of every month, where they just make everything better, they just decided to give everyone up to a $25 Lyft credit. Once they just decided to give everybody Hyatt status. Hyatt status is incredibly difficult to earn. They just gave it to you on rent day. This card is insane. I'm telling you, it's crazy the more you look into it. And it's not just that, they also have fun with it. So for example, this month, in March of 2024, they're having an NCAA bracket style tournament where customers get to vote on which benefits they want most, and then whichever one wins is the benefit that you'll get, which isn't just unbelievable because of the format of the NCAA March Madness and how that's a good marketing gimmick. It's unbelievable that a credit card is actually listening to users in real time to adjust the benefits of the card. That's crazy, that's unheard of. But that isn't even the end of this card. Bilt decided, hey, we're not just gonna be a credit card, we're also gonna copy airlines and hotels and have our own status program, which I guess you could say is kind of modeled off of the Bank of America preferred reward structure. But the point is, if you beat certain points or spend milestones for your Bilt card, I'll put those up on the screen, you get access to even more benefits. So every category gets you the same transfer rates for airlines and hotels. Every category reports your rent to your credit bureaus to help you increase your credit score. But, and here's the crazy thing, this is another thing that Bilt is doing that I just don't understand why nobody else is doing it, but it's beautiful. One of the biggest problems in the credit card game is what we call point devaluations, which is where companies, with inflation, they increase the number of points that you need for certain redemptions, making it impossible and harder to get them. Because if you leave your money in a bank account or in a stock market, right, it can go up with time and keep pace with inflation. But with your points, they don't go up with inflation, but the costs of things still go up. So you end up just being able to buy less stuff. But with Bilt, if you are in any of the higher status tiers with Bilt, you actually earn interest on your points, which is unheard of. This is crazy. I can't repeat myself enough. This is a crazy card. That counts for anyone who has the silver or gold or platinum status with Bilt. You earn interest on your points. Now, to qualify for Bilt status, you do need to do a lot. To earn silver status, you either need 50,000 points or $10,000 of non-rent spend on your Bilt card within a calendar year. And then you get it for the rest of this year and the rest of next year. That's a new change that they actually just made. It used to be that if you got your status in the first half of the year, it would only be valid for the rest of that year. But if you got it in the second half of the year, you would have the rest of this year plus all of next year. So now they made it where, if I'm understanding correctly, you can get status any point in the year. And if I'm wrong, please point this out in the comments. But where you can get status at any point in the year, and then you have it for the rest of that year and the rest of the following year. So to qualify for the Bilt Gold status, you need 125,000 points in a calendar year or $25,000 of non-rent spend. And for Platinum status, you need 200,000 points or $50,000 in non-rent spend on your Bilt MasterCard. So again, those may or may not be worth attaining for you, but it's just so cool to me that a credit card actually invested in creating a rewards program that kind of sort of makes sense for some people. The only other credit card company to try that is Bank of America with their preferred rewards, but this is so much better than that. It's just mind-boggling. I love it. How they're trying to do everything and they're trying to one-up themselves in every different area. So now to finish off, just so you know the important other things that this card covers, we've covered most of the unique things, but now we're just gonna cover the advanced normal credit card things, which are the things that are advanced, but you still see them on other credit cards. It's not Bilt revolutionizing the game here again. You do have trip cancellation and interruption protection, and so that's always a good thing to have. You do have trip delay reimbursement, which again is a good thing to have for a travel credit card, which Bilt is positioning itself as being on top of just a rent card. They want you to use this for travel. This is a big one. They have primary rental car insurance. So if you're in America and you rent a car with your Bilt card, you can actually deny the car insurance that the rental provider would like you to get. And you can just say, no, I'm covered. My Bilt card has got me for free. So again, depending on whether or not you're someone who rents cars, that could be worth a lot of money each day. That could add up a lot. And that's not a feature that you usually see on no annual fee cards. In fact, even the Amex Gold and the Amex Platinum, if I'm not mistaken, only have secondary rental car insurance, not primary. And the Bilt card with no annual fee as primary rental car insurance shows you that they're making this a really honest to God competitive travel card. If you're traveling abroad, there's no foreign transaction fee, which again points to them wanting to make this a competitive travel card. And then they have cell phone insurance, which is cool to have, but I personally don't know anyone that's taken advantage of this for any card that offers it. So your mileage may vary. So we've covered far and away the most important things for you to know to make the most of your brand new Bilt MasterCard. I hope it's amazing for you. I hope you use it to buy a house one day with their mortgage feature. I hope you get a ton of points. Let me know down in the comments below what you think of your new Bilt MasterCard, and if I missed any ways for people to make the most of their Bilt MasterCard, please let us all know down in the comments below. I am happy to pin comments that help provide more value to people because I forgot something if that's the case, and I look forward to seeing you next time.